you doing out there? Let me see. Hey guys. I'm just looking for the update on the Brown University. Let me see. So the police are pursuing a person of interest. I know they've been saying that they're going to have the press conference off and on all day, but I know there's a police presence in Salem as well. 32 Hampshire Road, which is a manufacturing facility. So I'm not really sure what is happening there, but we'll keep keeping up with it just to see. Because they haven't said who the person is yet. I'm sure people have already found the person, though. Can you see my hair? You can. No, you can't. No, you cannot. It's still gray. With blonde, though. Blonde, and I don't know how to fix this. Like that, I guess? I don't know. Whatever. Wrong way. So cute. Salty C. No use for a name 93. Oh, so funny. And hello, everyone. Hope you guys are good. Sweet dreams. How are you? I'm trying, Skilo. It's so difficult. It really is hard to grow it out. It sucks. But it is what it is. I gotta just keep going. I know, Giselle. It stinks, though. It's like, oh, really? Really? But it is what it is. What can we do? I just want it to finally be a color, even if it's gray. Whatever color it's going to be. Just get it over with. So this is interesting. Some of the stuff that I've been reading in here, it's so long. I can't even explain how many chapters. And I mean, there's what, 13 or 14 separate Google documents, and they're like 250 pages each. Oh, you're at work right now. Thanks, Joe. I had to go get it cut again because we have a thing at Scott's job. So I was like, okay. So is it me? She says she can barely hear me. Let's see. How about now? How about now? What about us? It should be on. Yeah, I muted it to play with the thingamajiggy there. Yes, no, maybe. Yes. Much better. Yeah, I had to you know, fuck with the thingy there. Okay. So we're going to go over some of this anyway because it's very interesting. If you followed the Delphi trial, Richard Allen was convicted of killing Abby and Libby. After going over all of this again, I mean, he doesn't have the same appellate attorneys. These are, look how long this is. This is serious shit. So Mark Lehman and Stacy Juliana, attorneys for the appellant. So, table of authorities. I mean, they've got a ton of stuff in here. They did not fuck around. So, the statement of issue. Whether the search... Hey, Grandma Sherry. Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. The search of his home, whether or not it was unconstitutional, that's the first thing. And was the resulting evidence inadmissible because law enforcement omitted or altered key facts in the warrant. Whether Richard Allen, the statements that he made while gravely disabled, and they get into that, and it is insane. Because again, we didn't get to see the trial, so we didn't even know, what exactly was happening in there and what the jury wasn't able to find out and all of that. Hey, Belly. Anonymous. All right. Really, really, really crazy shit. Yes. Liggett lied. There's so much that we didn't even know was going on because it wasn't on there. And now we do know that a lot of the people who were reporting on this are phonies because they already believed, Lauren, Hidden True Crime, I'm looking at you, they believed he was guilty, so they reported it in a very specific manner, which is disgusting because we weren't allowed there. So, all right. Whether they denied him his right to a fair trial to present a complete defense, to explain the scene, and impeach the investigation. So, gavel cakes. This is so long, girl. Bye. It's crazy town. Real government name. All right, so let's get comfy. It makes me sick too. It really, really makes me sick. Hey, Betty. All right, here we go. On October 28th, 2022, the state charged Richard Allen with 2 counts of felony murder by kidnapping, which was amended on March 22nd, 2024 to add 2 counts of murder. On November 11th, 2024, following a 25-day trial, the jury returned a guilty verdict on all counts. The trial court sentenced Allen to an aggregate sentence of 130 years. He filed a motion to correct errors which the trial court denied, which is also crazy. So, statement of facts. On February 14th, 2017, 14-year-old Libby and 13-year-old Abby were found dead in the woods. 2 days later, Allen, like many others, came forward and reported he had been on the trail that day and saw 3 girls. Because law enforcement wanted to know whether he had seen any possible suspects, he was interviewed in a parking lot. After the interview, the lead was marked cleared and the report was misfiled. Allen then returned to his job, his family and home in small Delphi. In the next 5 years, he did not sell his car, destroy his clothes, dispose of his gun, or relocate, but he continued with his normal routine. No witnesses identified Allen as the bridge guy. When the report was rediscovered in September of 2022, law enforcement insisted Allen was the bridge guy without a single eyewitness. Over the next several years, the state built its case against Allen. Warrant: the bridge guy video. On February 13th, 2017, around 1:30 p.m., Libby's older sister dropped off Libby and Abby at the Mononhai Bridge Trail to explore and take photos. The girls had the day off from school, and the weather was unseasonably warm. When the girls failed to meet Libby's father at the specified time and no one could reach them, Libby's family contacted the police, and an extensive search began. The next day around noon, the girls were found murdered in the woods near Deer Creek, not far from the High Bridge. The best evidence law enforcement had was from Libby's phone, found at the scene under Abby's body. At 2:13 and 51 seconds p.m., Libby recorded a 43-second video showing Abby walking across the bridge with someone, bridge guy, behind her. Law enforcement enhanced the video, yielding the following. This. Hey, Spitfire. Hey, Kim. The man is heard telling the girls, down the hill. Law enforcement set up a tip line, and many people came forward. 16-year-old R, her sisters I and A, and her friend B told police that they were on the trail, and as they were leaving, they saw a man near the entrance of the Freedom Bridge. Betsy Blair, who frequently walks the trails for exercise, came forward and told police she saw a white man on the High Bridge standing on a platform, and he seemed to be waiting for someone. She thought the man was the guy in the video because he was wearing the same clothes. When she reached the bridge, she turned around and noticed two girls approaching. 4 months after the murder, law enforcement interviewed Sarah Carbar. She told police that on February 13th, while driving eastbound on County Road 300, she saw a muddy man wearing a tan coat walking towards town. After seeing the image of Bridge Guy in the media, she said he was possibly the man that she had seen. On September 21st, 2022, law enforcement rediscovered the tip from Alan. In the February 2017 tip, Alan called and said he was on the bridge between maybe 1 and 3 and saw 3 girls. Alan shared his address, phone number, and the MEID number, which is a unique identifier that can be used to track a phone's location. The lead investigators immediately started investigating now 50-year-old Alan. They believe the man that the 4 girls, RV and others, saw on the trail was the bridge guy. Alan still lived in the same house, worked at the same CVS store in Delphi as he did in 2017. On October 13th, 2022, when police showed up at his house, Alan agreed to talk with them. After riding to the police station, Alan patiently answered questions about his personal life and the walk that he took on that day, 5.5 years earlier. Alan explained after spending the morning with his mom on February 13th, he went home to get a jacket before going to the trails. He walked out to the first platform of the High Bridge, looked at the fish, and walked back before returning home to watch the stock market. He explained that he came forward after law enforcement asked to speak with anyone who had been on the trail. The next day, a DNR officer interviewed him in a parking lot. Alan believed he told the officer he was on the trail between noon and 1:30 or 1:45. He could only recall seeing 3 girls leaving the trail. Being 5 years past, Alan could not remember what car he drove or the clothes he wore. He remembered wearing a blue jacket and blue jeans and a jacket. When asked what type of jacket, Alan didn't remember and listed all the jackets he owned: a blue Carhartt, a black Carhartt, and an off-brand with a hood, sweatshirts, hoodies, and a fleece. He kept a skull cap in his jacket. He could have been wearing tennis shoes or boots. When law enforcement asked for consent to search, Alan expressed concern that they were making him somebody's fall guy by trying to fit pieces together that do not fit to close the case. He was confused, thinking they were talking to him to look for helpful information. Although he understood that they had to clear everyone on the trail, he was bothered by the time passage. After a break, law enforcement returned more confrontational with Allen, who became frustrated with being accused of murder and law enforcement contacting his wife and daughter while he was at the station. Confronting Allen with bridge guy photos, Allen responded, "If that is taken with the girl's phone, that is not me. I have never met those girls before." They accused Allen of admitting he wore the same clothes as bridge guy, and Allen corrected the investigator, reminding him that he said he could have been wearing a sweatshirt. Allen added that everyone has looked at the bridge guy photo for years. To him, it didn't even look like the bridge guy was wearing a Carhartt. Finally, when law enforcement accused him of either being out there to kill the girls or to introduce them to someone, Allen said, "Good luck finding anything that points to that." Despite Allen repeatedly telling law enforcement, "Arrest me or take me home," they wouldn't stop. Allen eventually had to get up and walk out to end the interview. Now, we're going to get into this crazy part here. The story that Detective Liggett told the judge. On October 13th, 2022, the state applied for a warrant for Allen's home, car, and electronics. In Detective Liggett's probable cause affidavit, he concluded that Allen is the last individual to have contact with Libby and Abby, and is the individual depicted on the Monon High Bridge from the video taken from Libby's phone. He reasoned that Allen admitted he was wearing a blue jacket and a head covering like the bridge guy, and was on the trail bridge around the time of the abduction, and witness, the four girls, Blair and Carbar, saw a man they believed to be bridge guy wearing a blue jacket. Detective Liggett implied Blair and the girls saw the same man because they similarly, I hate that word, described his jacket. Also, Detective Liggett concluded that Allen drove his black 2016 Ford Focus and parked at the old CPS building on 300 North. He claimed that witnesses, Blair and Wilson, saw a car backed into a parking spot at the CPS building. Wilson felt the driver of the car was trying to conceal the license plate. Wilson said the car was a purple PT Cruiser or small SUV type vehicle. Blair and Wilson drew a diagram and had the vehicle they saw parked in the same general area and manner. The part of the story Detective Liggett did not tell the judge. 1. Blair's description of bridge guy did not match Allen. Detective Liggett did not tell the judge about the differences between Blair's description of the man on the bridge and Allen's appearance. Just 3 days after the murder, Blair described the man as white, age 20, medium build, brown curly hair. An artist completed this sketch, which Blair rated 10 out of 10 for accuracy. I mean, if that doesn't look just like Allen, well, then I don't know what does. I mean, come on. It's his twin brother right there. What in the actual hell? 20 years old, too. My God. Okay. In 2019, Detective Liggett personally interviewed Blair, who again described the man as slender, youthful, boyish looking, in his 20s to early 30s. No facial hair, with poofy hair like the sketch portrayed. And she still gave it a 9 out of 10 in accuracy. At the time of the murders, Allen was 44 years old, 5'6", and had very short hair. Number 2. Blair's description of the oddly parked car did not match Allen's. Detective Liggett omitted Blair's description of the oddly parked car as resembling a 1965 Ford Comet with sharper angles. Below is her drawing of the car compared to Allen's hatchback. What even is this? What even is this? What it looks like the little You know the little stick figure with the arms like this, like it's saying it doesn't know? That's what it looks like to me. Like, what exactly? It's a line thing. Like, what? Look at it. It isn't even a thing. And it looks just like this round car that he drives, right? Same exact car. Blair also said the oddly parked car was a nondescript color, but not black. Not black. Blair did not believe the man on the bridge was the same man Carbar saw walking down the road. So Blair did not think that the man was the same one. Detective Liggett omitted that Blair told him the man Carbar described walking down the road is not the same man she saw on the bridge. Okay, here's the other guy now. The other drawing. After talking with Blair in 2019, ISP issued a press release distinguishing the man Carbar saw from the man on the bridge. The ISP explained the men are not the same person, and that Blair's sketch is representative of the face of the person captured in the video of Libby's cell phone. Carbar said the man walking down the road was wearing a tan coat. Detective Liggett also made false statements in the affidavit. He claimed that an interview was done of Sarah in 2017, and she stated she saw a man wearing a blue-colored jacket, and it was muddy and bloody. In her 2017 interview, Carbar did not describe the man as bloody, only muddy. She said he was wearing a tan jacket. 5. Alan never said he was wearing a blue Carhartt, and his wife said Alan had purchased his current Carhartt a couple of years earlier. Detective Liggett falsely stated that Alan said he was wearing a black or blue Carhartt with a hood and a head covering. Alan told investigators he did not know what he was wearing, and it could have been anything from a Carhartt to a sweatshirt, and that he kept a skull cap in his jacket. Although Alan's wife said he had a blue Carhartt in 2022, Liggett left out that she said Alan purchased that coat a couple of years ago. The girls were killed in 2017. So he basically used what he knew, twisted it around, and left stuff out. Can you imagine? Is Jason in the background playing his game? Yes. Hey, Brantley, I see you up there. Hey, Headstones. Yes, that is Jace. Can you hear him? He's on his VR. And then... All right. The warrant. The trial court issued a warrant. Law enforcement seized from Alan's home multiple items, including a Sig Sauer gun, knives, casings, and the Carhartt type jacket with a white and yellow patch on the front pocket. These items featured prominently during Alan's trial. I'm so used to that until you guys pointed it out. I wouldn't even hear it. All right. F. Alan denies the bullet is his and that he was bridge guy or had anything to do with the murders. At the scene, officers found an unspent, unfired .40 caliber Smith & Wesson cartridge near Libby's right ankle. When ISP analyst Melissa Oberg cycled 6 cartridges through Alan's gun, she did not find any marks that matched the marks on the cycled round at the scene. Thus, she could not establish a link between Alan's gun and the unspent round at the scene. Oberg then fired 4 cartridges from Alan's gun. She compared the markings on the spent cartridges to the markings on the unspent cartridge at the scene and concluded that Alan's gun was the source of some of the markings on the unspent cartridge. What in the world? What in the world? It was an unspent round. So she fires his gun 4 times and says that his gun was the source of some of the markings. So did some of the other markings come from a different gun somewhere else? I mean, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? And this is somebody's life. Like, it's somebody's life. It sounds like you're like, yeah, it gets loud in here. It does. Hey there. He gets loud. We don't even hear it anymore. Okay. After learning of Oberg's conclusions, on October 26, 2022, law enforcement interrogated Allen again. For about 1.5 hours, Detective Holman accused Allen of killing Abby and Libby, or at least being involved. Allen explained the very day the police asked anyone on the trail to come forward that that's what he did. I went for a walk on the trail and went home. I did not murder 2 little girls. Detective Holman repeatedly confronted Allen with Oberg's conclusion that the marks on the casing at the scene matched his gun. Each time, Allen denied that the bullet at the scene was from his gun. Holman even claimed that the methodology was scientific, like fingerprints. Exhausted and frustrated by Detective Holman's relentless accusations that he murdered Abby and Libby, Allen consistently said he could not tell him what happened to the girls because he doesn't know. He did not know that the round got between the girls, or how the round got there, or how they died. He emphatically stated, I did not murder 2 little girls. Despite Detective Holman's lying about experts identifying Allen and his voice on the video, that's another thing too. I mean, we all say, oh yeah, we know police can lie. Can you imagine sitting there saying, no, we have video and that's your voice. Scientifically, it's your gun because that bullet is yours. And we have eyewitnesses who put you there. What in the hell do you do in that case? What do you even do in that case? What do you say? You just, I mean, I guess you could just keep saying, no, it's not me. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But how do you get out of that? Hey, Nanny Sharon. How do you get out? How? What do you say? What do you do at that point? I'd be yelling at them, freaking out, swearing them up, down, and sideways, and I don't know what I would do. You're crazy. Get the hell out of here. Get me out of here. Give me a lawyer. Do something. Yeah, there are limits, but it's like, oh my gosh. I don't know. It's so frustrating. Okay, so despite all of the lying, Allen continued to deny he was the bridge guy. Detective Holman tried a different lie, saying 5 witnesses saw Allen with Libby and Abby and a gun. Again, a lie. That did not happen. Okay, new member. Welcome. You don't say anything because... Oh, it's 3 months. I'm like, I know you already. Been here a while, lady. You don't say anything. Yeah, that's what your lawyer's for. I mean, maybe he thought he was just helping. I don't know. And because it's kids, what can you do? Sherry says, I'm so glad you're covering this. I personally think R.A. is not the guy. I listened to a lot of Delphi. Thank you so much. I did a whole series on it, and at the end of the series, I was just like, without all the information, I have no idea. Now that this came out, there's so much in here that we didn't know. I started reading it. I went to get a haircut, and I started reading it while I was there. And I read pretty fast when I'm reading silently to myself. And I don't know. Hey, chair bullies. Okay. He said 5 witnesses saw him with Libby and Abby. Again, Allen said, it didn't happen. I don't care how stressed out I am getting. I'm not going to admit to something I had nothing to do with. Holman tried to use Allen's depression against him, claiming that was the reason he killed. His depression was a result of killing the 2 little girls. That did not work. Holman used Allen's wife as an interrogation tool. While Alan was being interrogated, ISP told her that the bullet at the scene matched her husband's gun. Ugh. When they brought her in to see Alan, he hugged her and said it's going to be all right. While left alone together, she asked how his bullet got at the scene, and he repeated what he told Detective Holman. I'm not going to say something I did not do, and I can't explain something that I don't understand. He told her, I know that no bullet from my gun was connected with a murder in any way, shape, or form. ISP lied to Alan's wife, too, telling her that a witness identified Alan. Alan assured her they are not going to get away with this and told her, I am sorry you're having to hurt. I'm sorry I am having to go through it. This part here really will mess you up. Hey, Gina. I'm telling you. Hey, hoodies. Solitary confinement. There are laws around solitary confinement, and I really want you to pay attention that he is a suspect. He is not... Nobody convicted him at this point. Hey, Lindsay. Nobody. This man's not convicted at this point, okay? When I read this part today, I was like, all right, I'm going to throw my phone. Just a few days after 50-year-old Alan was arrested for the first time in his life, he was sent to IDOC as safekeeping. They transferred him to the Westville Correctional Unit, a maximum security segregation unit for the worst of the worst. The movies refer to it as the hole, which is used to punish people. Alan was the first safekeeper in any IDOC employee's memory to be placed in WCU. Pretrial safekeepers with mental health issues are usually placed in a mental health unit. The IDOC knew Alan had major depressive disorder and was hospitalized in 2019 for suicidal ideations. He received a D mental health code, the second most severe, entitling him to one out-of-cell psychologist visit weekly. This is insane, what you're about to hear, by the way. Insane. During the visits, Alan was shackled and confined in a 3x3 cage, separated from the psychologist. They had him in a cage. A 3x3 foot what is he, a dog? They put him in this little cage, and so he could see the psychologist, but he was shackled the whole time too. As if he really went on some murderous killing spree all over the state. And you know, I was thinking, and I'm like, this reminds me of like Hannibal Lecter. Like, what in the actual frig is going on here? Alan had no face-to-face interaction unless shackled or separated by bars. Outside his cell, he was restrained with leg irons, handcuffs, and a belly chain on a lead. They really treated him like a dog. Other Westville inmates and general population lived in dorms, played games, ate together, watched TV, and moved freely. Alan was placed in a strip cell, stripped of everything except the bare necessities. His cell was 8 feet by 12 feet with a camera, a mattress on a concrete slab, and a bug infestation. His only view was a narrow window facing a razor wire fence. His meals were passed through a door slot, and he ate alone on the floor or bed. Alan was recorded 24/7 with suicide companions outside of his cell door, writing down his statements and behaviors. Guards with video cameras filming him showering, any movements outside the cell, and attorney meetings, which, how the hell did they get away with that, by the way? IDOC knew solitary confinement could worsen his diagnosis and even cause psychosis and their policy restricts the time that inmates with serious mental illness can stay in solitary to 30 days. But they did not apply that policy to him, and he remained in the most secure solitary cell in the WCU for 13 months. 13 months. It's restricted to 30 days. 13 months. This man stayed in a cell where he could look outside, but all he could see was in a slit was a wire, a wire fence. What the fuck? That's bizarre to me. That's absolutely bizarre. Upon arrival at WCU in November of 2022, Alan appeared like a deer in headlights, but was coherent, quiet, and weighed 180 pounds. By April of 2023, he weighed 135 pounds, was psychotic, and gravely disabled. Early in custody, Alan maintained innocence and believed solitary was meant to tear him down. He told the psychologist, this woman, Dr. Walla, he felt like a broken man after 2 weeks. Alan described a quiet, normal life previously. Alan was extremely devoted to his wife. On November 14th of 2022, he emotionally told her, "If this becomes too much for you, call the detectives and I will tell them whatever they want to know." By January 26th of 2023, he was expressing paranoia. In late March, early April, around the time Alan received his discovery and met with his attorneys, his behavior suddenly worsened. Guards thought he was acting up. He refused meals, became nonsensical, spoke of Old Bear Claw hypnotizing him, whoever Old Bear Claw was, acted like he was from medieval times, ripped up his legal mail, washed his face in the toilet, and was drinking toilet water. He stuck a spork into his genitalia, covered himself in feces, spit, and vomit. And they still left him in there. Hey, hear me go. Can you imagine? And they didn't think, we should get him out of here. Or maybe get him to a medical unit outside of here where we can have a guard with him 24/7 or something. No. Why do that? I mean, he's stabbing his genitalia with a spork and drinking from the toilet, covering himself in his own feces. But no, we're not going to do anything about that. Video from early April showed Alan frightened, extremely thin, bleeding, shaking, contorting, and interacting with non-existent stimuli. He was pacing back and forth, eating his Bible, hitting his head on the cell door. In a video from April 12th, he was naked while flapping his hands, punching the air, counted imaginary objects, pulled feces from his anus, smeared it into food, and marched in place. By April 13th, his health had become dire. The IDOC psychiatrist, Dr. Martin, saw him naked, covered in feces, with brown fluid from his mouth from eating it. Dr. Martin found him to be very psychotic, hallucinating, and incompetent to consent to treatment. On April 14th, the IDOC ordered involuntary medication and found him gravely disabled, a working diagnosis of MDD with psychosis. He had lost an abnormal amount of weight and was not sleeping. Halidol produced minimal improvement. He He continued to speak in loose associations about things like nuclear war, poisoning, dying, losing reality, cryogenic eyeballs, and not remembering confessions he had already given. He also continued to play with his feces. After letting Alan sit in his feces for 2 hours on April 23rd, he was removed from his cell and given a shower. Alan's symptoms continued through May. On May 3rd, Dr. Walla diagnosed Alan with a brief psychotic disorder, noting he had disorganized speech and behavior, but no delusions or hallucinations. On May 25th, his shot was still not working. Alan paced for 2 hours and banged the back and front of his head on the metal door for about an hour. Despite his self-injury and a visible goose egg on his head, no one checked on him. The next day, Alan had 2 black eyes from banging his head. On June 15th, IDOC was administered another 30-day involuntary emergent Halidol injection, and another injection on June 16th. On June 20th, Alan was catatonic and extremely skinny. Guards carried him to the infirmary, strapped him in a chair. After his visit, he remained vacant while staff wiped drool from his mouth. That same day, Dr. Martin claimed Alan was coherent, oriented, and not psychotic, and had been free of psychosis for 7 weeks, returning to his baseline on May 2nd. Are these people insane? Are they literally actually insane? Is it low for you guys? Yeah, like a zombie, right? You think so, Hammy? You're struggling to hear me? They are. They are. Maybe it's better when I turn my head this way, because the mic's over here. So let me stop sharing and then I'll share it on this screen. Let me throw it up over here. Wow. Alrighty. Alright, let's see. This is better? Okay. Alright. Alan confessed to his family over the phone on April 3rd, May 10th, May 17th, June 5th, and June 11th. On April 3rd, he told his wife, "I did it. I killed Abby and Libby." Later saying, "Maybe I did. I think I did." On May 17th, Alan insisted to his mother that he killed the girls. The next day, on the 18th, he banged his head against his cell door to the point he had a gash. On June 15th and 11th, Alan told his wife he did it, but he had lost his mind and he's probably going to kill himself. He feels like he's already in hell and does not understand what is happening. From April through June, guards repeatedly heard Alan confess. "I killed Abby and Libby," amidst bizarre behavior. His statements occurred while he smeared feces, rolled in it, drank toilet water, shouted at his shadow, sang, masturbated, paced, saluted, and asked nonsensical questions, hit his head, and asked if he was dead. On April 29th, Alan made more specific statements to a guard, claiming he killed the 2 girls in Delphi with a box cutter that he stole and left in the trash at CVS. He was going to rape them, but he panicked and killed them instead. He said they were screaming Now, if they were screaming, there were plenty of people out there that day. Nobody heard screaming. Just the day before, he was covered in feces. Dr. Walla. On April 5th, Alan's emotions shifted rapidly. He questioned whether he was God. He slipped a sheet under the door, wanting to confess to the warden. Later, Alan told Dr. Walla, "I killed Abby and Libby. I'm sorry." He had intense eye contact, bizarre smiling, and circumstantial thought. Although he would go on and off a tangent and sometimes never return to the original topic, Dr. Walla claimed his confession was concise. Alan said he was motivated by sex, but was uncertain whether he had sex with the girls. Alan also confessed to molesting his sister and daughter, claims that were contradicted by them. 2 days later, Alan asked Dr. Waller if he had confessed. On May 2nd, Alan was very say the word with me. I know that word. That looks like genitalia. We're going to say the word out loud. That's what we're going to do here, because I know that word. Tangential. Say it. Tangential. For a Bostonian, this is not an easy word. Tangential. I don't like that word. I just don't like it. Okay? Repeating himself and jumping between topics. He said, "I killed Abby and Libby. I will kill everyone. I will wipe out the whole world after I die." He mentioned World War III, was confusing nightmares and reality, thought he must have schizophrenia, and was randomly saying methamphetamine and telling people, including Dr. Walla, he loved them. The day before, Dr. Walla was unable to have a meaningful conversation with him. On May 3rd, he confessed to following the girls to the bridge when the bullet fell out, and then he said, "Down the hill." He was going to rape them, but saw a van. He crossed the creek, slit their throats, and covered their body with tree branches. He also said he feared missing Easter, thought his interactions with Dr. Walla were fake, and was paranoid about his safety. After entering a summary into Alan's record, Dr. Walla destroyed her notes. Have you ever heard of that? Thank you, Alicia. Anybody? How I remain neutral and don't get my, we can take a break from me reading, I can tell you. I totally have a problem because I want to see, I can't say the word. Tangential. I can't say it. It's a bad word. I get mad in private, but I try to see everybody's point of view. I really try to see her point of view. You know, whoever's it is. Dr. Walla here, I don't see her point of view because she's a professional. And she's supposed to be doing the damn thing here. But like on YouTube, I can try to see, for the most part, most people's side. I get mad in private though, and in Discord. And I tell all the whores to go, go do bad things. On May 10th, With Dr. Waller present, Alan told his wife, "I did this. I killed Abby and Libby," while insisting he was losing his mind. He continued believing he was dead and the world would blow up if he fell asleep. The water was poisoned and that he was reliving the same day. He probably felt like he was reliving the same day every single day. Dr. Waller listened to podcasts about Alan 3 hours a day while commuting to work. Not nice? No, she's not professional. No. No. Mm-mm. So whose podcast was she listening to for 3 hours a day on the way to work about Alan? That doesn't sound biased at all. Before Alan was arrested, she researched a suspect on the IDOC's database, and after she treated Alan, she posted on social media about his case. She just... Beginning October 17, 2024, the state tried Alan on 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of felony murder. During the 25-day trial, the state built its case against Alan on 7 points. What the jury heard. Bridge guy. So they heard all of this. The jury saw the video of the bridge guy on Libby's phone. They also heard from 2 of the 4 girls, R and B. They also heard from Blair and Carbar. After seeing the videos, the witnesses believed they saw a bridge guy on February 13th, 2017. Blair thought she saw him on the platform of the bridge. She described the man as white, possibly in his 20s or 30s, with brown hair, brown poofy hair, youthful and boyish. She also believed she saw Abby and Libby approaching the bridge while the man was still on it. Blair's Fitbit data placed her near the bridge at the time of Libby's video. Although Carbar in 2017 reported seeing a muddy man in a tan coat about 4 p.m. walking west on 300 North towards town, by the trial, she claimed the man was muddy and bloody and wearing a blue jacket. Surveillance video captured a car like Alan's driving down 300 North at 1:27 p.m. Now, she saw the man at 4 p.m. walking west on 300 North. Surveillance video captured a car like Alan's driving down 300 North at 1:27 p.m. The prosecutor argued that this was Alan shortly before he parked and walked to the trail, and that Carbar had saw Alan walking back to his car after committing the murders. At trial, no eyewitnesses identified Alan as Bridge Guy. The prosecutor, however, told the jury that Alan must be Bridge Guy because every eyewitness is adamant that the person they saw was Bridge Guy. There's no doubt in their mind. And Blair, according to the prosecutor, must have seen Alan right before the girls because Alan told us he went out onto the Monon High Bridge, out to the first platform, which is exactly what Betsy Blair told you. Trooper Harshman, who had listened to Alan's jail calls, believed it was Alan's voice on the video. In regards to the bullet, the jury heard from a battle of firearms experts over the bullet. For the state, Oberg testified that when she matched test firings from Alan's gun to the unspent casing at the murder scene, she applied the Association of Firearm and Tool Mark Examiners methodology. She gave an error rate for the methodology of 2.2% for false positives and 2.8% for false negatives. She discussed studies and articles that she reviewed to apply that methodology. Oberg admitted that the AFTE methodology is subjective, but she testified that in 17 years of applying it, she was unaware of ever making a mistake in identification. During closing, the prosecutor told the jury she's never been wrong. For the defense, Eric Warren, an expert in applying the AFTE methodology, testified that comparing tool marks on an unspent cartridge with tool marks on a spent test firing is akin to comparing apples to oranges. Now, in the beginning, when we first started reading this, we're just regular people here, right? Regular people. And we're like, no, that doesn't make sense. How can you take an unspent bullet that we don't even know where the hell it came from and compare it to a fired bullet and then say his gun could have made some of the markings? Some meaning what? Some meaning not all, but some? And if they were only some, where'd the other markings come from? And why are you comparing two different things? His opinion, there was insufficient agreement on the tool marks to match Allen's gun with the unspent casing found at the murder scene. I mean, I would hope so. The timeline. Christopher Cecil testified regarding the movement and the health data on Libby's phone. The girls encountered Bridge Guy at 2:13 p.m. Libby's phone stopped registering movement at 2:32 p.m. He summarized the movement data as follows: 131 to 208, 1,682 steps walked. 208 to 218, 414 meters walked. Why are you going from steps to meters? I don't know why. Just because you have to. 225 to 232, 2 flights of stairs climbed. Final movement recorded. Why? Okay. The state argued that this activity overlapped with Allen being on the trails. So it starts off at 1:31 and ends at 2:32. The state argued that this activity overlapped with Allen being on the trails and Allen completing the murders and leaving by 3:56. 3:56? So you're saying he spent an hour and a half down there with the girls and nobody saw any of this? Like, in what land does... Where? What? How? Does that make any sense? Leaving the scene by 3:56, where he was seen by Carbar walking on 300 North. Allen contested this time through Stacy Elrich, a former FBI forensic analyst. She testified that someone inserted wired headphones or an aux cable into Libby's phone at 5:45 p.m. and removed it at 10:32 p.m. This would silence the phone. She noted that an incoming phone call occurred moments before the headphones or aux cable were plugged into the phone, which would have silenced the call. In response to Elridge's testimony, the state asked Cecil whether water damage could be responsible for Eldridge's findings. Over a hearsay objection, Cecil testified he Googled it during the trial and found some unspecified, non-peer-reviewed troubleshooting forums reporting that water damage or dirt within the headphone socket could mimic headphones being inserted. What? Pause. What? Christopher Cecil. He Googled it during the trial? They allowed him to Google this during the trial and give this information right then and there? Okay. Fine. All right. Confessed motive. When the state arrested Allen, it had no explanation for the murders. However, the state argued that once placed in solitary, Allen confessed to the crime and a motive. While gravely disabled, Allen confessed to guards, Dr. Walla, and his family. On May 3rd of 2023, he told Dr. Walla he was going to rape the girls, but panicked and killed them. He said they were screaming. The prosecutor argued that the jury should believe Allen's confessions, despite the psychosis, relying on the opinions of Dr. Walla, the guards, and Trooper Harshman, who reviewed Allen's videos and calls. The prosecutor claimed that Allen's confessions were logical and organized, and the product of free will and his newly found religion. Okay. Almost every guard testified Allen's bizarre behavior was orchestrated and not the product of mental illness. What? Absolutely not. But wait, am I still so low? Come on, you guys said that I wasn't low, and now you're saying I am low again. I don't like that. Hold on. Hold, please. How is it now? It sounded good to you? I don't know. How about now? It's better! Sorry, Nicole. I just changed the microphone back to the Shure mic off of the Blue mic. Now it's much better. Alright, good. Okay, so do you think somebody who is pretending to be crazy is going to eat feces and roll around in it and smash his head off of metal objects? Or do you think he's just going to say, like, crazy things and maybe hurt himself a little bit? I don't know. Earbud warning. Sorry. I don't understand it either. I don't. Alright. One guard said he knew Allen was truthful in his confessions because of the look in his eyes. Okay. Some guards claimed inmates commonly smear or eat feces as a tool for attention. None are mental health professionals or knew Allen's mental health code. Each time Allen confessed to Dr. Walla, she said he was not delusional, hallucinating, or psychotic. Although Allen expressed confusion and memory gaps, she suspected he was feigning or acting bizarrely. On cross, she admitted she may have been wrong, and Allen might have been genuine. With hindsight, she was on the fence. – My son must really be enjoying his, his craziness that he's doing over there. I missed a great convo back there. Where? Back where? Sorry. Can you guys hear my son really well now, too? Because he, believe me, once he gets on that VR, it is a whole different situation. I don't know what combo I missed. Or if it's even me that you're talking about. No, I don't think he was acting either. Libby. Yes, he is. Period. I'm so aggravated with this, Libby. And thank you so much for posting all of this on X. The minute I saw you post, I was like, there it is. Yes, Danny Sharon, they are. Thank you, Betty. He's having a ball in there, so. Oh, we talked in Boston. I gotcha. All right. Now, the state introduced 31 suicide observation reports containing Dr. Walla's opinion, except for a few. Except for in a few, she continued to find Allen non-psychotic while documenting paranoia, delusional thought, and confusion about being dead and self-injury. That sounds totally normal to me. She at times labeled him as feigning for secondary gain. The day before he was deemed gravely disabled, she wrote he could be exaggerating or consciously deteriorating. When he ate feces, she called the behavior unclear. Oh my god. Oh my god. Dr. Martin believed Allen was psychotic, but in remission. After mid-April Haldol shot and back to baseline by May 2nd. Wait, he was psychotic, but in remission from being psychotic. Great. Like Dr. Walla, he described psychotic symptoms, yet concluded Allen was much improved. When either doctor acknowledged psychosis, they attributed to the factors other than solitary confinement, even though he was supposed to be there for 30 days and was there for 13 months, even though he had to be in a 3x3 foot cage when speaking to people outside of a cell. It makes no sense to me why they treated him like he was a convicted serial killer who ate people or something. Regarding Allen's phone confessions, Trooper Harshman said Allen's demeanor was calm and solemn, and he was not under duress or stress. He opined Allen acted this way for attention. Allen called Dr. Westcott, a neuropsychologist, who opined Allen entered IDOC with MDD and physically and mentally decompensated, showing early signs by December and March, becoming psychotic April to June, with residual symptoms later. Allen's solitary confinement, sleep loss, and starvation produced sensory deprivation, delirium, or psychosis. Dr. Westcott believed Allen was psychotic or delirious when confessing to Dr. Walla. I mean, it sounds like it's me. After reviewing all records and videos and evaluating Allen for days, she found no evidence of malingering. None. Nothing. Dr. Grossian, a psychiatrist experienced with solitary confinement cases, testified that such environments cause psychotic delirium, confusion, and disorientation. Delirious behavior often becomes grotesquely regressive, including smearing feces, sexual acting out, self-harm, and suicide. On recovery, memory is often absent. He had no doubt Allen was delirious and saw signs of false memory, common in delirium, where a belief evolves into a perceived recollection. Some people will say, I think I did it, and after time start perceptualizing the event. The more someone tries to remember, the more concrete and distorted the memory becomes, like a game of telephone. Oh, this detail that only the killer would know. This one always aggravated me. So these are all the things that the jury heard. Brad Weber, who lives near where the girls were found, told the jury He left work in Lafayette around 2:02, drove his white cargo van home, arriving at 2:22 to 2:27, so either 20 minutes or 25 minutes. The state claimed that Allen confessed to Dr. Walla that he attempted to rape the girls but was scared after seeing a van, which forced him to flee with the girls across the creek. Allen's statement, the state told the jury, contained a detail only the killer would know. The state argued Weber's arrival home in his van was what interrupted Allen, causing him to take Libby and Allie across Deer Creek to kill them. The murder scene. The murder scene was unusual and complex. Libby was naked, and Abby was wearing Libby's clothing. Abby's right leg was positioned under her left leg. Both girls' throats were cut with a sharp instrument. However, the injuries were different. Libby had so many incised wounds along her neck that it was difficult to determine the number. 3 major vessels were injured. There was a scalloped edge along the incision. Abby's throat was cut only once, and not as deeply as Libby's throat. Abby was likely murdered while wearing Libby's clothes. Abby died in the location where she was found, but after Libby died, her 200-pound body was moved several yards to its final resting. This created a V formation with the girls' bodies. Sticks were deliberately arranged on the girls. Sticks were deliberately arranged on the girls, covering no more than 3% of their bodies. It would have taken up to 20 minutes for Abby to die. Although Libby's injuries were more significant, it would have taken her between 5 and 10 minutes to die. The blood pattern on Abby's hands was noteworthy. When injured people instinctively reach for major wounds, getting blood on their hands and sleeves. When injured people instinctively reach for major wounds, of course. Think about that for a second, too, what it's about to say here. If your throat is cut, you grab your throat, unless you're tied up or incapacitated for some reason. But Libby had substantial blood on her hands, but Abby had little to no blood on her hand or sleeves. The state's blood spatter expert had never seen clean hands and sleeves in a case involving this amount of blood loss. The absence of blood may be consistent with being unconscious or being restrained, but there were no defensive wounds, bruising, blunt force trauma, or ligature marks on either girl. The bodies were lying in the prone position, meaning on their back, yet both girls' faces had blood patterns flowing upward against gravity over their chin and face. How does that make sense? They weren't face downhill. They were on their back. The blood pattern was flowing up against the gravity over their chins and faces. Thus, sometime during the murders, a person articulated the girls' torsos and necks above their chins. It was clear someone had lifted Libby's body to create a flow pattern. Abby had a similar pattern, which meant her body was also articulated to a position where her neck was higher than her chin. This also occurred while Abby was wearing Libby's clothing. About 4 feet off the ground, there was a notable blood pattern on a tree. We all know about the F tree, if you follow the case, but there it is. I don't care what anybody says. That's not enough. But either way. The state performed... Hold on. The state performed a sexual assault kit on both girls and found no physical evidence of sexual assault. Despite testing the sexual assault kit, hundreds of clippings from the clothing and swabs from the girls' bodies, cartridge, and cell phone, law enforcement found no DNA from Alan. Now, I need to know how that is possible. How? How's that possible? None. No DNA. I mean, what was the man in? You know, did he wear like was he in a plastic suit? Not a hair? Not a piece of spit? Not under their nails? Nothing? How is it possible? I don't understand that at all. Hundreds of clippings from the clothing and swabs from their bodies. Nothing? I don't know. The state told the jury that Alan controlled the girls, swapped Abby's clothing, articulated their bodies, and moved Libby all by himself before fleeing the scene by 4 p.m. The state's witnesses repeatedly claimed Alan used the sticks as camouflage, and he moved Libby's body to make it harder to see. This, the state argued, caused blood flow to flow over Libby's chin, and for the reasons the state could not explain, dressed Abby in Libby's clothes and turned and repositioned her at the scene, causing blood flow from her neck to go up and over her chin. Although the girl's injuries were different and possibly caused by multiple weapons or different mechanisms altogether, the state's pathologists speculated that a single blade, such as a box cutter, caused all the injuries, including the scalloped mark, which a box cutter would not do. The blood stain on the tree, according to the state, was an inverted L transferred from Libby's arm as she propped herself against the tree. And a female hair and multiple incomplete profiles were seen contamination or background DNA from the girls sharing clothing or through incidental contact with people they knew. According to the state, it could not find Alan's DNA. This is really crazy right here. This is crazy, what I'm about to read. According to the state, it could not find Richard Allen's DNA because the blood from Abby and Libby was overwhelming the scene and competing with any DNA that Alan left behind. What? Okay. The manner, quality, and thoroughness of the investigation. At the trial, the jury heard about the state's investigation from the day the girls went missing to a few days later when Alan met with Doolin. The state then told the jury to fast forward 5.5 years to the volunteer finding Doolin's report in September of 2022. The jury heard nothing, or maybe very little, regarding the manner, quality, and thoroughness of the investigation between the murders in February of 17 and his arrest in 2022. On November 11, 2024, following a 25-day trial, the jury found him guilty. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Here's what the jury never heard. Jury never got to see this, never got to hear this. They don't know anything about this, okay? This is bizarre, what they allowed to be excluded. I don't even understand how that's possible. But here's what the jury never got to hear. The jury never saw the sketch below, which is the man that Blair saw on the bridge when Abby and Libby were approaching. The sketch does not look like Alan, who in February of 2016 was short, 44 years old, with closely cropped hair. So they never even got to see this first drawing. Never. How is that possible? Because for so long, this is who they were looking for. But you don't get to see that. Not at all. We're not even going to talk about that. We're going to act like none of that ever happened. In 2017, Blair had rated this sketch a 10 out of 10. In 2019, she reaffirmed her confidence in her sketch and insisted that she could identify Bridge Guy if she saw him again. How? How is that possible? Yeah, that boy is 20. And I wonder if there's like a teenage boy who's connected to a guy who looks like the other drawing. Allegedly. In my opinion, maybe. But I'm sure we'll get there. Maybe. I think I got to like page 58 today. She rated this a 10 out of 10. Then she reconfirmed, insisted she could identify him for sure. So, nor did the jury hear that Blair, and at one point the ISP, believed the man she saw was not the man that Carvar saw, who was muddy and bloody. How is that even possible? You have two eyewitnesses. Neither one match with the other one. And they definitely don't match with what the four girls say either. So none of these people even line up and look like each other. It's so frustrating. The bullet. The jury never got to hear that the firearm and tool mark evidence is flawed and not scientific. Allen proffered expert witness William Tobin to explain the scientific community's criticism of the AFTE methodology. Tobin is a nationally recognized forensic, you can read that yourself, he's the guy who can look at the things and he knows what I'm talking about. You get to the part that describes the audio and the surveillance footage. Not the audio, I don't think. The disgustingness of him having feces coming out of his mouth, eating on floors. I wanted to cry for him. Who the hell puts somebody who's not convicted in that position and treats him like an animal? They treat him like an actual animal. It's disgusting. Oh, he has extensive experience in the metal business. You know what we're talking about. Bullet and lead analysis and tool mark principles, along with his background in statistics. He is familiar with the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, which has criticized the methodology of tool mark identification. Tobin reviewed Oberg's work and was prepared to explain the flaws in the methodology. He had testified in over 297 cases, has been recognized by the state's high court, and an expert on the topic. But, no. They never got to hear from him. How is that? That makes no sense. Why? Why didn't they get to hear from this witness? Confessed motive. The jury never heard Allen's confused, disjointed ramblings and screams during the months that Dr. Wallace said Allen was making logical and organized confessions. The trial court permitted Allen to play 15 videos of him in solitary to impeach his confessions, but then required Allen to mute them. They excluded... No. Maybe this is what she was talking about. So the excluded audio showed the following. Video 972. Guards extracted a skinny, wide-eyed Allen with blood on his forehead. Allen screamed for his dad. He asked the guards to hold his hands and yelled, "Roger, Marvin, wait for it." Video 980, April 13th. Guards ordered Alan to cuff up. Naked and confused, he clutched the sink and was shaking. When officers entered, Alan begged to be put on an airplane and told them not to believe his last confession. Video 1002, April 17th. While being transported to see Dr. Walla, another inmate yelled, "Kill yourself, Richard Allen." Video 1007, April 17th. During transport for a forced injection, Alan screamed, spoke incoherently, asked for his mommy and daddy, rambled about suicide and time travel, and within 7 minutes claimed to be both the stupidest and the smartest person ever, repeated, "Wait for it." A guard told him the games are over and commented on feces on him. Alan responded, "Rocky Balboa is my favorite actor. Clap on, clap off." A guard noted the feces had been on him for a while. Video 1026, April 21st. During a haircut, Alan mostly stared into space, confused. He responded, "Leave the top," when asked if he wanted his face shaved. Video 10152, April 28th. During a shower transport, Alan spoke incoherently, repeatedly saying, "There is a God. Please don't do this and make it painless." With feces on his face, he asked to be euthanized and whether his wife was present. He said he was King Michael, claimed he started World War III, tried to save his family and Donald Trump, sang hymns, quoted scripture, and asked to be cryogenically frozen. What? Video 1201, June 20th. Guards carried a catatonic, drooling Alan to the infirmary. The medical professional discussed with Alan his cholesterol and blood pressure rather than, I fucking hate these people, rather than his non-responsiveness and involuntary jerking. Alan stared blankly when asked the date or the season. They were talking to him about his cholesterol? Alan asked the court to watch the videos with sound, but no. Also, the jury did not hear Alan the morning he started confessing, telling his family in 3 intertwined calls that he was confused and losing his mind. In the first call at 3:12 a.m. on April 3rd, Alan told his dad he was losing his mind and uncertain how much longer he was going to be lucid. Alan said, "You guys know I would never do something like I've been accused of." Alan felt he had been mentally tortured, like he's in Guantanamo Bay, and that there were drugs in his coffee and Kool-Aid. In the call the jury heard at 5:14 a.m., Alan told his wife for the first time, "You motherfuckers, is this a lie? This couldn't actually be accurate." It couldn't actually be accurate, though. Okay, let's just pause here for a second, please. So, that morning, there's a call to his dad saying he would never do something like this, but the jury's not allowed to hear that one. But later, at 5:14 a.m., they're allowed to hear this one. And he could not remember what he's told his dad in the earlier call. Then in a third call at 8:45 a.m., a panicked Alan told his wife he was not sure if his original call to her was a dream. He said he was not drinking the water or the coffee and questioned whether the attorneys who were coming to visit him were his attorneys. The jury only heard the second call with the confession. I want to literally break something. What actually is happening? How is that possible? Why didn't... I don't understand. Maybe I'm just missing something here. Why did the jury only hear that call, though? It's all the same day. And excuse my dog beside me snoring like a lunatic, but how can you have 3 calls from one day and only allow 1 call, though? That's what what is happening right now? We need Alan Jackson. He's a little busy right now. I don't understand that. That's such bullshit. My son was accused of calling a kid a derogatory name, and he had never heard that word or knew what it meant. He was getting teased about being Asian, though. Gull said if defense wanted more of his words presented, then he had to testify? You know, who is Gull connected to? I would love to know who she's connected to, because there's no possible way that any of this is, I mean, how is that legal? The detail only the killer would know. I love this one. Now, I don't know why I didn't read any of this when I was, maybe because I was at the hair salon and I skipped it by, I don't know. But I did read this. The detail only the killer would know. The jury never heard that Alan could not have walked the girls across the creek to kill them after seeing a van drive down a lane as he confessed. The state had video showing Weber's van arriving home 25 minutes after the pause in the movement of Libby's phone and nearly 15 minutes after it stopped moving altogether. So, specifically, a security camera footage from Weber's neighborhood showed him arriving home around 2:44. The state also had a report prepared by the FBI which confirmed that Weber's cell phone arrived home at 2:50 p.m. The jury never heard that Alan confessed to the details that the real killer would know were wrong, including Alan saying he shot the girls. So, way back up there, we documented the time that the phone stopped moving. Weber didn't even get home until 2:50 p.m. You can see his van, but 2:44, 2:45. But he's not even passing by that area where you look up and you can see that van. It's just... The jury also never heard that Alan confessed to details that the real killer would know were wrong, including that Alan said he shot the girls. The judge prohibited Alan's expert, Dr. Gracian, from identifying Alan's signs of being in a state of delirium and hallmarks of a false memory. One such hallmark was the facts Alan got wrong, like that he shot them. Alan's alternative exculpatory explanation of the scene. The jury never heard that from the beginning, many investigators believed and investigated the girls' murders as part of a Norse pagan ritual, and that the usual and complex scene had textbook features of such. I know that people think that this is such a conspiracy theory, and you almost feel silly saying it because you know that people are going to be like, oh my god, it's a conspiracy theory. But when you start to put stuff together and you're really looking at this, you're like, but could it be though? There was always a discussion among law enforcement that this may have been a ritual murder and that the sticks were Nordic runes. Many officers believed the scene was too complex for just one person to be involved, which it sounds extremely complex. How did nobody scream and nobody hear them? And Richard said that they were screaming, yet they couldn't have been screaming because people would have seen it. Heard it at least. Within the first week, the Carroll County Sheriff enlisted the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, the BAU, to evaluate whether the sticks were related to the pagan rituals. I mean, clearly there was something wrong there. After examining the evidence, the BAU declined to exclude pagan ritual as a plausible explanation for the murder scene. It remains possible a new believer or a rogue believer in Odinism was involved in the case. The Purdue professor also consulted law enforcement on whether the sticks were runically, is that even a word, inspired by runes. He found it quite plausible that these markings constitute an instruction inspired by the Norse runes, or modern recreations thereof. Law enforcement consulted with an undercover ISP trooper regarding the sticks and the bloodstain on the tree. The officer was familiar with Norse pagan symbols through his covert intelligence. He agreed the blood on the tree resembled the pagan Feu, that rune, which it does. It absolutely does. And he found similarities between the stick formations on the girls and the pagan bind rules. You just need to see them. If you haven't seen them before, I mean, it looks just like it. I remember looking this up back when I was doing the Delphi videos, and it absolutely looks just like it. And everybody's like, no, that's not an F. I'm like, yeah, it is. It is. Look at that. Look at that. It looks just like it. It goes like that and up, right? So then, Delphi tree F. It looks just like it. It just does. I mean, look at that. It looks just like it. Right here. 1, 2, down. I don't know. To me, it looks just like it. I don't know. That aggravates me. And people are like, you're seeing too much into it. It does, right? You never heard of it. Oh my goodness. Odinism is a whole situation. It really is something altogether different. I'll share with you what I did on Delphi, just because I was so frustrated with the whole Richard Allen narrative. And I was like, well, let me try and look at it from an outside perspective. So I looked at other people who actually confessed, said that they spit on the girls, said that they killed, they said everything. And then people were like, no, it wasn't them. Yep. The Odinism patches. Yep. It's crazy to me. Okay. He also found similarities with the stick formations as well. And they're called, they're bind runes. So there's a lot on that. And to me, it appears that that's what it was. Once Allen was charged with the murders, the defense team consulted a nationally recognized expert, Don Perlmutter, who found 7 features of a Norse pagan ritual. They include location. She explained that the Norse pagans follow a Norse pantheon of gods like Thor and Odin. They have a nature-based ideology where events and rituals are conducted outdoors, in wooded areas, and near water bodies. This murder occurred outdoor in a clearing near a creek. The date. Pagan rituals often occur on Norse holidays or events. The Nordic holiday Valesblot which honors Odin's son Vali, begins sundown on February 13th and continues until February 14th. The girls went missing near sundown on February 13th, and they were found the following day. Means used. Ritual killings often involve a knife or a ceremonial knife. And here, the girls were killed with a knife that made an unusual scalloped mark. Sticks. Ritualistic crimes usually involve symbolism at the scene, and with Norse pagan, the symbolism would include arranging natural objects in a specific way, like sticks and runes, and blooding the runes. These practices are integral in the magical thinking involved in Norse paganist rituals. Here, the stick arrangements show intentional symbolism. It is difficult to explain the sticks as hiding the bodies, because they aren't hiding the bodies at all. They're not functioning that way. The stick arrangement on Abby mirrored the Norse rune Gabo, and the intentionally placed stick formation on Libby looked like a Nordic bind rune. The manner of death. Ritual sacrifices often involve blood loss and torture. The girls' throats were cut, and they suffered a prolonged blood loss, which is indicative of a sacrificial offering or initiation type activity. I think my husband gave me a sore throat because this whole side of my throat is so dry. And drinking coffee is really not helping it. I should go get water, but I'm way too interested in this right now. Alright, the body arrangement. In rituals, the sacrifice will be displayed or arranged at the scene in a manner that is significant to the group. And an upside-down hanging body is an important element of the Norse paganism, because Odin hung from a tree for 9 days before discovering runes. Like Abby's positioning, the classic image of Odin depicts him with one leg bent under the other. It absolutely does. And I just don't understand how they could have saw Brad, who drew something like that, then saw her positioning and looked into the whole Odin Norse thing and not saw a connection. And been like, this doesn't make any sense. Unusual blood pattern. Finally, a ritual sacrifice would involve an atypical or symbolic blood pattern. And here, the blood pattern on the F tree appeared to look like the Norse pagan Fey rune. The manner, thoroughness, and quality of the investigation. The jury never heard how law enforcement bungled the investigation into the ritual killing or suspects connected to Norse paganism. ISP disregarded Brad Holda, the father of Abby's boyfriend, and Holder's friend, Patrick Westfall. How is that possible, bro? You gotta listen. If you haven't followed this the entire time, it's insanity. Because there's just no way. When you see Brad Holda, when you actually friggin' see Brad Holda, I'm just going to a playlist here. Hold on. Stop. I don't know how to share a friggin' playlist, but if you go to my playlist, you'll see it. And I was going to try and grab a picture of this nutcase. Maybe he's not a nutcase, but he could be. There's no fucking way that this dude... Are you seeing this guy? Do you see this man? You went and looked at the playlist. It's actually pretty decent. Delphi drawing. That's Patrick Westfall. I don't think he was involved, but now in the right hat, he could look like him. He could. But this is the drawing here. And then you've got, I don't know where the hell that one comes from. It's so ridiculous. No. I don't know. To me, in his drawings and all, I can't. I can't. It's so similar. This is the playlist. It's down here. Right here. And there is a suspect one. This one. Keegan Klein. Crazy bastard.
I think I talked to.
This is the other one. Hold on.
And investigation being.
You tell me that that is not some kind of weird. What is that? What is that? That looks insane. Alright, here's Brad. This is him here. Okay? This is on Brad's hand. Which, it is a binding rune. This is a binding rune. Then this is similar to what was on one of the girls. These are drawings and things on Brad's Facebook. This is how Abby was posed. You see her leg. This is how Odin was hung from a tree. This is his son with Abby. This was also on this nuts Facebook page. This. Why? Why? Now, don't pay attention to this drawing up here to your right, but look at this. Why was that, I mean, it looks like it was posed, you know, like somebody just did it to do it for whatever reason, but come on, that's not normal. I don't know. Okay. Then, the jury never heard how law enforcement bungled the investigation into the ritual killing or the suspects connected to Norse paganism. ISP disregarded Brad Holder, the father of Abby's boyfriend, and Holder's friend, Patrick Westfall, as promising alternative suspects because they lost evidence mishandled interviews and conducted a shit-ass investigation. Investigation into the ritual killing. After examining the scene, several officers believed the scene was too complex for one person to be involved. When the BAU evaluated the murder scene, it found it noteworthy that Abby was clothed. Allowing Abby to dress ahead of time suggests the suspect felt differently towards her, including a possibly heightened level of guilt or regret, at least compared to Libby. Law enforcement explored a group of pagans connected to Abby. In the weeks leading to the murders, Abby had been talking with a boy, which is Holder's son, and meeting up with him a few times. She kept the relationship secret from her family. On the day she was murdered, Abby invited that boy to meet her on the trails. He had school, so he said no. While law enforcement was searching for the girls on February 14th, they learned about Brad Holder's son and Abby's secret relationship. They went and pulled him out of class in Logansport and searched his phone. That moment, his father, Brad, texted him, "She's missing." So, his name's Logan, the boy. I'm pretty positive. Logan is the son who was dating Abby. So, Libby and Abby were going that day. Abby invited Logan to come with her to the trails. He said, "I can't. I gotta go to school." He goes to school. They're discovered. The police are like, "Okay, this one has a boyfriend. Let's go to the school." They go to the school, pull him out of class, and as they're looking at his phone, Logan texted his father, Brad, and was saying, "She's missing." Lot of coincidences. Who is Richard Allen? He seems nice. I mean, he was a guy who worked at the CVS, now convicted of murder. So, the interviews that were lost and missing. On February 17th, law enforcement interviewed both Logan and his dad, Brad. By then, law enforcement already suspected the murder scene involved a pagan ritual. During his interview, Holder reported being involved in a pagan tribe and spending every weekend in Delphi engaging in pagan rituals with Westfall and 5 or 6 others, including women. These rituals involved animal sacrifice and human bloodletting. Holder admitted knowing about Abby and his son's relationship, but he denied that he ever met her. He said, I've never met her. Law enforcement recorded Holder's interview, but Delphi police recorded over their only copy before August 2017, permanently deleting it. Only a 1-page narrative remains. But isn't that a quinky-dink? According to that narrative, Holder told police he owned a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson, but law enforcement never collected it, nor did they collect his cell phone. Does anyone in their right mind think that this makes sense? Sounds like a good time. No. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. We've been on now for 2 hours even. I gotta go put my child to bed. He has a half a day tomorrow and then he's off for the holiday. Let me see something. me see something here. Tomorrow I have got... Oh, I don't have a... Oh, yeah. I have a 2 o'clock meeting tomorrow, but I don't have anything early. So maybe what I'll try to do is come back tomorrow, because we need to keep reading this. This is fascinating. They have to grant this. I have got something in the corner of my eye, and it hurts, and I can't get it out. Oh, it is weird stuff. It's actually crazy. It really is crazy. It's wild. It really is. Yeah, if you guys want to catch up on anything and you're looking for something to listen to, feel free to go to that playlist and find the video called The Overlooked Suspects, Confessions, Connections, and Shadow of a Doubt. That was very interesting, because there are other people who literally confessed. But here's Richard Allen's ass, and they're like, yeah, you look like a good candidate. You're out of here. She snores so loud, this dog. Alright, off I go. But I will be back tomorrow. I don't think it'll be too early in the morning. It could be. It could be, depending on who comes on. Soup might be on in the morning, you never know. Or Michelle. I know Michelle Walks is doing... She's covering this as well. So we'll see, though. And I will see you guys soon. Thank you for being here. I love you so much.